Why is there no go? Oh, I'm already live. Well, okay. Awesome. I'll try to cut that out later. All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome. This is kind of an introduction to the digital storytelling course. This has been offered before at the Denham Springs High School STEM Center. However, I am a new teacher to the parish and the school. So I'm just giving a little introduction about the course for people who may not be familiar with it. Introduction to myself, because no one's familiar with it, and just some things that you all can expect going into this school year. Um, so before I get too much into it, I just want to point out that I have this kind of setup here on the screen for on days that we have virtual days for instruction. It'll be something similar to this. All right, so I'll have um, this screen here, the majority of the screen, whatever happens to be on my computer that day, whether it be going through an assignment, um, a presentation where I'm talking about something like that. That'll be the majority of the screen. You'll be able to see me at any time somewhere on the screen. I may not always be in the same spot from video to video, depending on what I'm doing. And then I also have a whiteboard that I'll occasionally write stuff on, so you may see that. So I have that here. Um, and then again, things may move around a little bit if needed. Um, again, I may make myself a little bit bigger one day or move myself to a different section. Just depends on what's going to be on that video. So that'll be there. For now, actually, I am going to just kind of hide the there we go, hide the whiteboard, because it gets in the way for what I'm doing now, and I'm not actually writing on it. Just know that sometimes I'll write stuff on the whiteboard. You can see it in this other window on the screen. Cool. Um, all right, so basically the purpose of this video is to offer, as I said, an introduction to the course and what you can expect through that, and an introduction very briefly to myself, and then talking about a little bit of what you can expect going into this school year, because things are a little bit different from, I'll phrase it that way, than how they've been before. So I'll just start by saying that we'll have a mix of meeting physically in class and then meeting virtually. At least to start with, we'll see where things go in either direction as the school year progresses. So for the virtual meetings, I'll have something like this set up where it'll either be a lecture or a presentation, something where I will be giving a lesson, even though we'll be meeting virtually. It'll all be hosted on my personal YouTube channel, so you can watch them as many times as you need to. You can watch them after the fact in different orders. You can pause it, come back to it, whatever you need. They won't be made public. You'll have to get to them through the Google Classroom, unless everyone just really wants me to make them public, and then anyone can search them. Then I will. It's more of just a generic privacy thing, so other people aren't commenting on it. We'll see where we go from there. But yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the video. All right. Another thing, just so you can expect to see on screen, I'll usually have my cursor highlighted so you can see a little easier where I am and when I click on stuff. So that'll happen. All right, so just a little bit about me. Throughout this video, I'm probably going to be bouncing around a little bit on the screen just because all of my text is in different places. So I'm actually coming in from LSU to teach this course. I have two sections of this course, as well as one section of the Programming Digital Media course. So I'll be teaching mostly at the STEM Center. I believe starting off, we'll also be meeting on Fridays in at the main campus. But I'm a current PhD student focusing in computer music, and I have a cat. It's on that side of the screen. All right. So you may see occasional pictures or examples of my cat throughout this course. That's Bean. Sometimes you may even see her kind of in the back there if she decides to sit by the door that day. So that's just a little bit about me. So I'm both teaching courses and taking courses as I'm working towards my doctorate degree. So I am very busy, but I'll talk about that a little bit on the next slide. Um, so, next slide. I'm going to go back up here now that LSU graphic is out of the way. There we go. Um, so you know a little bit about me. The best way to get in contact with me for school-related things is through Remind. Um, so I'm still waiting on the school district to finish setting up stuff for my account because again, I mentioned I'm technically an LSU employee. I'm new to the district. They're just getting all the paperwork taken care of. Um, so once we physically are meeting, we'll have a kind of that first meeting. I'll give everyone the appropriate Remind and Google Classroom codes, things like that. So you can join those groups. So I'll be sending out reminders and stuff through Remind, just periodically throughout the year. That's also just the fastest way to get into contact with me. I'll get the notifications right on my phone. I'll be able to respond as quickly as I can to that. If a parent or guardian does need to get in contact with me, they can join the Remind if they want to. They're more than welcome to. They're just going to get a bunch of notifications about various assignments and reminders and things like that. Or they could email me. I have my email right here in this on this slide, and they can get in contact with me that way. It may take a little bit longer for me to respond, just because I mentioned on some days I'm driving to the STEM teacher. I am driving to the STEM center to teach, driving back to LSU for a class, driving to the STEM center to teach another class, my third class, then driving back to LSU for my last class of the day. So there's a lot of back and forth at certain times. It may take me a little while to get back to them via email, just so you all know. But I do see those. I will respond. I just may not get to it immediately. If a parent or guardian needs to schedule an in-person meeting, again, just because there's a lot of back and forth and I am fairly busy, I'll be available. Just have them schedule the appointment with me on days that I'm teaching. I'll be at the STEM center or the physical high school. Otherwise, if they really want to meet outside of that, they're more than welcome to drive to Baton Rouge and have a meeting there. That's a little out of the way, so I would prefer it to be the other way or via email if at all possible. But again, we'll get to that. I'm teaching first, third, and seventh hour at the school, and I'll talk a little bit about how that's set up towards the end of the video. But that'll mean that I'm going to be physically there on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. We'll talk a little bit about that later, as I mentioned, but that's just part of that. All right. So, bloop. Okay. Oh, I just said that. This slide wasn't in my other presentation. So if you haven't figured it out, I'm doing these videos kind of live. That'll kind of just be the structure of how they're all going. I just don't have the time or skills to do a whole bunch of video editing for 3 classes a week, to do all this stuff. So it's going to be a lot of live settings. So sometimes things will go wrong. Yes, but I'll be doing all these lessons live. I'll be there for first, third, and seventh hours, and I really hate that I typed out third that way. That's bothering me way more than it should. Okay, so that'll be going there. So I guess I'll talk a little bit about what you can expect with that. So the schedules are a little bit different than they have been in the past. So we have a total of 8 hours throughout of classes, so 8 classes a year that you'll take, and they're broken up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But then everyone within that is then broken up into either an A group or a B group. So every day, if the A group is meeting, then they're meeting physically, but the B group will be meeting virtually off campus. And then flip that, so then the next day the B group will come in physically while the A group is meeting virtually. So while you're meeting, let's just I'm going to pick a random Monday. On Mondays, the way things are starting off, it'll be an A group, so it'll be all the odd periods. So first, third, fifth, and seventh hours will meet. Everyone who's A will be physically at the school. Everyone who's B will be online. So that being said, uh, the lessons will pretty much be the same, whether it's physical or online. There may be some small tweaks just because of the format, but for the most part, they'll all be the same. So you'll have to log on the virtual day, get the lesson, do the assignment, turn it all in through the Google Classroom, um, even if you're not meeting. My goal is to have as many of these pre-recorded and up there at the beginning of the week for everyone, so that way you can go in and watch them whenever you are available that day. I don't know your life. Um, do that, and then I'll be available via Remind, uh, just to answer questions, things like that. I mentioned that these will be hosted on my YouTube kind of privately, so you can find these videos in the Google Classroom, click on the link, it'll take you there, no one else will be able to access them. That's because I want you all to, again, if you have questions about stuff or want to do a discussion, you can just do it right in the comments on the video. Maybe the other students can see that before I can get to it, answer your question, boom, problem solved. So that's there. If there is an instance where I need to give a what it's called a synchronous meeting, where we're all meeting together via Zoom or the Google Hangout through the classroom or whatever, I will let you know at least 2 class meetings beforehand. So that means is if, say, on a Tuesday, I say, hey, we're going to need to meet on this Tuesday, all the virtual people meet, sign in at this time for this lesson. We're going to do that. I'm going to tell you at least 2 beforehand. So either so that would be that Monday, I'll remind you, but then either that Friday or that previous Tuesday will be when I tell you, just depending on when we meet. So you'll have plenty of time to know, hey, you need to log in at, 1 p.m. on this day or whenever the period happens to be. So you'll have plenty of time to know that. And I'll give out all that information as we go. A lot of this will get kind of drilled into you by every teacher you have, so I'm not going too in-depth. You'll get a bunch of packets from your first hour teacher for your first physical meeting. That'll have all this information and more on it. I do want to say some things to expect. In addition to all the normal aspects of going to school here, there are also, every time you enter a classroom, you'll have to get like your temperature checked. And that'll just be a quick little, boop, boop kind of a thing. It'll check your forehead. If it's above a certain threshold, we're required to send you into the office. They'll monitor you for a little while, check you again, and then either send you back to me with a note saying it's okay, or you have to leave. That's how it is for right now. It may change. We'll find out. So in addition to that, masks are also required for all physical in-person meetings. I'll be wearing one. You all will have to wear one. If you don't have one, you'll have to get sent to the office. They'll have some there for you. I'll also have a few. I have some here. I may be able to order some more as we need them, but it's not going to be my responsibility to provide you all with masks. So you'll have to come prepared with those. However, because we do have limited physical time, if you do just happen to forget one day, things happen. It's much easier just to grab one here rather than have to go all the way to the office, get one, come all the way back. I have to scan your temperature again. It's just a long ordeal. So if it's a one-off every periodically, oh crap, you forgot one, you can grab one and we'll just keep going. But you'll have to have a mask, you have to have temperature things, and then outside of that, it's mostly standard stuff. So we'll go on to that. So now that that's out of the way, let's actually talk about what this course is. So you may have heard about this a little bit. This isn't a new course to the STEM Center like the Programming Digital Media course is. So we're going to be focusing on a few different sections with the goal of, storytelling being the main thing. How you can communicate information in new and interesting ways. Specifically utilizing different aspects of computers and technology, internet, things like that. That's the digital aspect of digital storytelling. So we're going to start up with a section called digital literacy. And what that's actually not going to focus as much on storytelling, but it's going to help to frame the context of what we're doing in these other units just a little bit. Um, I figured I will just get it out of the way. Don't have to worry about it at all. Um, it's basically going to be, how to be a good um, digital citizen in the 21st century. How to, respect others and their intellectual properties that are online. So you don't violate copyrights. How to protect your own data and information online. Things like that. Shouldn't be too long before we actually get into the okay, now we're actually telling stories and creating things in that regard. But I just figured we'll just knock it out, and it'll provide a good foundation for when we have to do things later on. All right, so images. So with the images, again, every unit will be focused on telling stories. Um, and these stories can be as creative as you want to be for the most part. There'll be a few guidelines for each of these, but generally the content can be up to you. For images, we'll be focusing, just on telling stories with still images. What goes into taking photos, maybe a little bit of editing, how you can present a sequence of photos in order to tell a story without any kind of movement or any kind of sound, things like that. After that, we'll kind of graduate into videos, and we'll start off just completely silent. How can you tell a story with no sound at all, just moving pictures? So we'll talk about how you can do bits of editing, sequencing your videos on the computer to, tell your story effectively. Different kinds of filming techniques, things like that. And then after that, we'll then graduate and start incorporating sound with the videos a little bit. And that'll kind of transition us into the audio sequence where we're going to step back completely from the video and only focus on the audio. So when we're doing audio, we kind of figure out, okay, how can you convey this information, build an exciting world for your listener with no visual cues. So we'll kind of start with, okay, let's build a soundscape in this program, and then we'll make like a news broadcast or a radio show and things like that, that'll involve only audio, only talking, only sound effects, things like that. And how can you convey as much information as you possibly can from you, the presenter, to the listener. After that, we're going to actually take a step back from both of those. The next section, this interactive storytelling, will be primarily text-based. We can do some stuff with images, with sound. We'll see when we get to that how much time we have left. But the idea is that you're going to be telling a story that can be the reader or whoever is interacting with it can kind of choose how it goes. So kind of like a very basic text-based video game. Or if you've watched any of the interactive stuff on Netflix, like Black Mirror had a special where you could choose and pick how the story progressed, things like that. That one will involve a little bit of coding, but I'll be able to walk you all through that as we go. Nothing will be terribly hard. We'll be able to get into that, and then the last kind of big section after that will be journalism, and that will kind of incorporate a lot of what we've done so far in kind of a new context. So up until the point we reach the journalism unit, we've been telling stories, trying to convey information through all these means, but these have all been essentially like fiction stories. When we get to the journalism point, we're going to kind of transition into talking about things that are non-fiction, or you're trying to communicate a specific point of view through this, or report on something that is happening using everything we've gone through here. So this will ultimately kind of culminate in like a little bit a news broadcast almost, using a little bit of everything. So that'll be something there. The next kind of section of this presentation, I just have little slides for everyone. I'm going to move my my video to this corner, so I'm not cutting anything off. And I'm just going to have these on the screen for a little bit. They essentially just summarize everything I just said about all the units. Um, you'll be able to pause this if you need to. But again, they'll just be here. I'll spend a few seconds on each slide, but I'm not going to read anything off of them. So there's this one that's been on for a while. Go next. Okay, so if you've kind of looked through those, you know, there's a few, these projects kind of at the end of each section are fairly large scale projects that will involve a little bit, you know, some group projects, things like that. Once we start getting into group projects, I will be kind of going over the specifics of how we um, will be doing groups in this course, especially with the half, um, you know, physical, half virtual meetings starting up, and we'll kind of go from there. Um, and we'll kind of go bit by bit, but just keep in mind that there will be, generally speaking, one group project per section of this. Probably, no, I said probably there probably won't be an exception. Maybe the interactive storytelling, maybe we'll see when we get there. And again, if things are changing with how we have to be meeting and teaching these courses. But just keep in mind that we will be doing some group projects, whether that is one person has to take pictures while someone else is in them, you know, whether you're working together to make a radio drama or presenting um, a short film as a group. You'll just need people. No one can do it themselves. Trust me. So there will be group aspects, but there will also be occasional individual stuff as well. So kind of at the beginning of each class, there'll be just a simple assignment just to kind of help everyone just gradually get in the knack of just telling short little stories, presenting information as quickly as possible, getting used to the new methods of, okay, how do I do this with my camera? Or, what's this sound effect do? Things like that. So there'll be little things each day that'll kind of culminate as a grade there. But I'll talk more about grading once we have physically met and can talk about grading a little bit. Oh yes, and the digital literacy. I forgot about that one. That'll technically be the very first thing we do. Okay, so all of this will be done through Google Classroom. Every teacher will have the exact same format for their Google Classrooms. So it'll be very easy, consistent across the board. I believe the goal is so that way the grades will just automatically import into what we have for the school for keeping track of grades that way and printing report cards. So that should all work that way. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm just waiting on the people who make way more money than me to finish all the paperwork, get everything set up, and give me all of the stuff, and then I will give you access to the Google Classroom where that will all be. So I'll be posting, announcements in there as well as Remind. I'll have the assignments. Those will have all of the due dates ready to go. I'll mention the due dates when I tell you about the assignment, but it will be right there so you'll know, hey, this thing is due. I need to do this. And all right there. All of the projects you'll do and you'll submit digitally to the Google Classroom, all of that. We'll have plenty of practice working with this throughout the year, so I'm not going to go too crazy into it, partly because I don't have access to it, so I can't show it to you. Once we do get access to that, I will walk everyone through it and just say, hey, I know every classroom is pretty much going to be set up the same, but so I know you know where it is for me. Here's XYZ for this course. If you've read through the slide, you'll also notice that there's going to be a little pre-test. This is nothing to worry about. It's partly an introduction to how to do things in the Google Classroom. Um, it's partly because this course was developed by LSU. They want to collect data about it, so they make me give this pre-test um, for that.